Hi, I'm Starlet Baker, Executive Director for Strongwater Farm, and I am here with Melissa, and she is our Equine Operations Manager, and I would love to know more about your role here at Strongwater. So I've been in the ED seat for a little over a year. There's a lot to learn, right? I don't have the equestrian background. I think I've mentioned that before. So I'm really learning on the fly, but I think that some of the feedback that I've gotten from some volunteers and some people out in the community is like, what goes on here? Like, what is the magic that goes on behind the curtain type thing?
Yeah.
And that has a lot to do with you and kind of all the brilliance that you have within your role and like the little details that you have to work with all the time and the constraints, for lack of better words, and all of the opportunities that you can work within and stuff like that. So first off, tell us a little bit about your role and like what you do, and then kind of go into a little bit more detail about the overall barn operation. Sorry, I just don't know where to start with this one.
Yeah, that's a tough one because there's a lot that falls under this umbrella.
Right.
So yes, I'm the Equine Operations Manager. So that's a lot of words to just say, like the barn manager, the person that manages the horses. So essentially what falls on my shoulders when you think of Strongwater, like, you know, we serve people in programs with horses. So half of that equation is the horses, and there's a lot that goes into that.
Yes.
And so there's a lot that goes into this role. So essentially making sure the horses are cared for, they're animals, they're living beings. So there's a whole lot that just goes into that part.
Yeah.
And that makes up a majority of my job. But then there's kind of other things to think about, like our facilities. Horses are large, destructive animals. So keeping our facilities safe, up to date, up to code. You know, we have working water and fencing and sheds and all the things that they need to, you know, go be a horse.
And electric fencing so they don't bust out and go into the street.
Yes.
Right?
Electric fencing, wood fencing, you know, just secure, safe fencing out there for them, of course. You think about then how do they work in programs? So half of the equation is just keeping them alive. And then the other half is now you serve your purpose. Go work. How do you work down there? Sometimes they do work. Sometimes they don't. But, you know, where are you going to succeed here? You know, where are your strengths? What clients are you going to work with the best? What are your preferences? What's your personality? Learning all of those. Times 17 is a lot.
Yes.
And then, you know, there's the barn staff part of it, managing the barn staff, making sure, you know, they have the knowledge to go out and take care of them and to, you know, do what they need to do, training volunteers and teaching them how to do the stuff. So it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
So I'm kind of stuck on something right now. Like you just said it, times 17, right?
Yep.
So that's 17 horses, 17 living beings that we are responsible for. You kind of, a lot of it falls on your shoulders, like you said.
Yeah.
But let's do like some quick math, not math in public. We won't like find the actual answer to this, but think about this. 17 horses, and how many times a day do you do grain?
Grains twice a day.
So we feed grain twice a day, and then we feed hay how many times a day?
4 times a day.
4 times a day, and that's AM, lunch, PM, and then night check, right? All of that times 17 times 365 days a year. Right.
Yep.
That is insane. Like, that is crazy math. That is crazy supplies. That is crazy coordination. Like, all of that. Sorry. Just super stuck on that.
Yeah.
A volunteer brought that up to me a couple of different times recently. That's just insane.
Yeah, it really is. It is very intimidating, especially when you kind of start in this position of like, you know, if you have your own horse, okay, that's just one mouth to feed. That's one horse to worry about. But when you have the variety in that number, it's intimidating.
Between like the 2 minis to the 3 percherons, right? And everything in between, the halflinger, the pony, everything.
Yep. We have a bit of everything here, which is great for barn staff and volunteers and clients to get that experience.
Yes.
So you get that range of the minis are going to eat this amount of grain versus our thoroughbred that's going to eat this amount of grain, and then you have everything in between, and the easy keep ponies and the hard keeper halflinger and quarter horse type horses and percherons. You have everything in there.
And the age range.
And the age range, 8 to 32. So those are completely different. 32.
Wow.
We just turned 32.
Wow. That's
So,
right, January 5th.
Yep.
King.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry.
Yep. So those are completely different horses in so many different senses. Their needs are different.
Yeah.
Managing older horses is a skill. I will always say that. And anyone that's in the therapeutic program lifestyle, I think, knows that, because your type of horses that you're going to get are usually going to be older, because they've been there, they've done that, they've seen the things, they have experience, so they're going to be very reliable for your program, hopefully.
Yep.
But with older horses comes health concerns. Their dental's always, that's its own thing.
Yep.
Their bodies aren't working as well, their muscling, their conditioning, everything in general just is not where they were when they were 8. So the range in that is a lot.
So much goes into that.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. All right. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So one of the big things I'd say about this type of job, one of the things I take on the most is their nutrition.
Right.
Which is where we're at. We're in our grain room.
Yep.
Nutrition I take very seriously, because it's really what keeps them going at the end of the day.
Right.
If you feed them a sweet feed diet full of molasses and oats and corn, that's just a bunch of carbs and a bunch of not so yummy stuff, and you're going to have very excitable horses that maybe aren't holding weight the best, not maintaining muscle, it's not enough protein, and it's just not the best feed for them, not on top of their chewing surfaces are not there when they get to 32.
Right,
so they
that's
can't
fair.
even eat that.
That's fair.
Typically. So managing all of that, and again, times it by 17, it gets complicated. So what I do and what Strongwater does and has always been is very individualistic about the horses. So we get in a horse, especially if they're on trial, we have to figure out where are they at. We take a large assessment. Where are you at when you come here? What are my goals for you, not only program-wise, but health-wise?
Right.
If you have all 4 shoes, can I take those off? Are you in a position that we can save a little bit of money, and you can be healthier, and you can have nice, round, solid feet? That's not the case for all of them, of course. What's your dental like? Let's get the dentist out. Do you need mouthwash? Do you need a float? Do you have a bunch of things going on, teeth that need to get extracted? What's going on in there? Because that's a really big part of nutrition is, can they even chew it? Can they even digest it, right? If they're not chewing it the best way, they're not going to be able to digest it. So that's just going to go right through. They're going to lose weight. It's not what you want. So with that, getting everything done that you can before they come or when they come. So get them, vaccinated, get the vet out, get their dental done, and then focus on their nutrition. So are you younger? If they're younger, that's great. Hopefully, they're going to maintain a little bit of muscle easier. They're not going to lose it right away. Hopefully hold a steady weight. With the older horses, that can fluctuate a lot more, especially when the seasons change. When winter comes, it gets colder.
Especially New England.
Especially New England. We keep our horses out 24/7 unless the weather's bad or the paddocks aren't safe with all the ice. So in the winter, you need to be feeding them more. So our grain amounts will change quite a bit.
Yeah, that's fair.
So there's a lot to consider with that. I work very close with our vet on each individual horse. We're actually going through a whole change right now to get them where they need to be, because I've been here for 6 years and all the horses I knew are now 6 years older.
Yep.
So they need different diets than they were on 6 years ago.
Gotcha.
And so those are the things you have to think about when you're in this role of, well, last year they were fine, they never did this, but this year they are. They're just
So how
older.
often do you generally do that check-in with the vet to say, okay, like, look, do we need to reconsider diet changes and stuff like that? So what's the decision point where you start having that conversation?
So it depends. What I do, my kind of outline is every year when we do our first round of shots, they do kind of an overall assessment.
Okay.
Where are they at weight-wise? Where could they improve? What's their muscling? Overall, what's their condition like? Sometimes when they reach that threshold of turning 20, their coat starts to look a little longer. Do they have Cushing's?
Gotcha.
Are they getting older in the sense, that could be an issue. Again, their teeth, are they just not chewing the right way anymore? Are they losing surface wear? They only have a set amount of tooth that erupts. So once they lose that set tooth amount, they have no more teeth. That's gone. So that's kind of where we start, as long as there's no issue. So if an issue arises, then it's immediately call the vet. What can we do? Come out and see them. That doesn't happen very often, and I'm grateful for that.
Yes.
Our horses are healthy, and it maybe says we're maybe doing something right.
A little bit.
But anytime an issue arises, that's definitely like, we're doing it then. But typically once a year at our first vaccine appointment, where are they at? Where can they improve? This is what they eat. Tell me what to change. And there's not really a lot that goes on in that conversation usually.
All right, that's fair. So it's just periodically as needed.
Mm-hmm.
You do check-ins with the vet.
Yeah.
Say, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And different age milestones.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. All right. So I can't like not look at this board that's behind us right now. I don't know if that's where you're at right now with the conversation, but like all this grain talk and all these measurements and the 17 and like all the notes and stuff like that. So let's talk a little bit about this, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So this is our new layout that we just had because we used to have 2 whiteboards and we simplified it to 1. So they have pretty much their set grain amounts on the left next to their name. That doesn't typically change unless you have a special horse like Tinder who gets a little bit picky. That's a whole other thing.
A little bit.
Yeah. That's the fun thing when you get a variety of horses like this. When your number is up to 17, you're going to have completely different horses. We have horses that'll eat it up in 2 seconds and horses that don't, and then horses that are just very, very picky. Mm-hmm. And so what we always are focused on, or I should say what I'm always focused on, is feeding a forage first type of diet.
Okay.
So horses are...
Define that a little bit for me.
Yeah. So horses are large animals and the majority of their diet should be forage, which typically means your hay, your grass, if they can accommodate that. There's different types of forages out there, and finding those are always going to be a really good option, especially with your senior horses. Okay. So we feed beet pulp. It's a type of forage. It's not hay, it's not grain, it's just the extruded part of the beet, of the sugar beet. Okay. And we soak it and we feed it to them. It's very good at maintaining weight. It's a very easy option for them to chew and swallow and digest, and it's pretty palatable. And so those are some options if you have a horse that maybe can't digest those long stem hay bales, hay flakes anymore. Feeding them a beet pulp option, feeding them, hay cube option, hay stretcher. So that's why the board is a little bit of a mess, is because we try and feed as little grain as we can, just so they're not taking in all of the carbohydrates and the sugars that come in those, although they're very yummy. It's not an ideal long-term deal. I know. So you see a lot of them get like a cup of grain, they get, couple handfuls of beet pulp and then a bunch of supplements. We try not to overdo it. So a lot of it's just, gut supplements or joint supplements or hoof supplements, whatever the horse needs is what we give. So we don't overdo it. They're not all on joint supplements and all on gut supplements and
case
all
by
on
case
hoof
cases.
supplements.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Freddie right now is rehabbing from some hoof issues. So he's strictly on a hoof diet, targeted to maintain his hoof. Right. And build that up quite a bit. Whereas horses like Cream, he's a little bit older. We're focusing on his joints, keeping him healthy, keeping him young. Yep. And then there's, the opposite where you have horses like Tex. We're just trying to keep weight on him. He's a hard keeper. He's not going to gain weight as easily as Pikea. So trying to maintain a top line, vitamin E, things like that.
Okay. So for the audience, what is a top line?
So it's kind of a hard question to answer, but essentially it's the muscling along their back. You can get very scientific about which muscle that is, but the muscle along their back that the saddle sits on is the muscling that you're trying to keep healthy and keep, for a lack of a better word, just... Yeah, you want it
generally
you
straight.
Want them to be muscled along their back.
Got it. So after the mane ends to the tail, right? Keeping that top line, which is at the top of the shape of the horse. Yep. Right. That's kind of, I just literally put that together. Yeah.
That's so a very simple version of it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I'm not I'm not the science person behind it, but that's how I can best understand it. Okay. Yeah. All right. Great. So, all right, so tell me about the different hays, right? So from my understanding, there's different types of hay that you've looked into too, and then there's the alfalfa, what's that? Yeah, so we, like I said, work with our vet to make sure we're feeding the best hay for them. There are different types of hay, and I work with our hay people to make sure the quality of our hay is solid. You don't want to be feeding moldy, dusty, crusty hay. No one wants to eat that. You don't want to pay for that. No. So there's different types. So we feed generally first cut, which means it's the first cut of the season, typically done, I think, in April or May. So it's growing over the winter. So right now, all the fields are typically growing all of that hay. It's got more time. The plants are going to develop. So the hay's not going to have as much sugar because the plants are going to be longer stem. Like I said, they have more time to mature. So the first cut is going to be typically more nutrient based, not more sugar based. Second cut is more
sugar. Okay. typically more grassy. Your first cut hay, I should say, is going to be thicker, not as palatable. They don't often like it as much as second cut, but like I said, nutrient dense. That's why we feed it.
Gotcha.
Second cut, more sugary, more grassy. Not all of our horses can have all that sugar in that grass. They gain weight on it very easy. So a horse like Tex or your hard keepers are going to love that, and it's a great option. Typically a little bit cheaper as well, I believe, because it's second cut. So that's going to happen in June or July. So they're not going to have as much time to mature over the season from first cut to second, which is why they don't end up getting as nutrient dense.
Gotcha.
We don't feed that here. Some people do. It's just per your vet. Our vet has recommended us not to because of our older senior horse, population that we have. We don't need the sugar and all that. Our horses eat the first cut just fine.
All right, good.
And then there's alfalfa. So we feed alfalfa just as a ulcer preventative and also just to maintain some weight. So like I said, our thoroughbred loves that. It's very beneficial for him. Help gain weight, help hopefully make it so he's not so ulcer prone. And then some of our other guys also eat it. So Cream was on it for a little bit. The problem with the alfalfa is it's very high in NSC, so non-structural carbohydrates, which, lack of a better word, protein. It's a lot of protein. They don't need all that protein when they're not working super hard, right?
Gotcha.
So thoroughbreds on the track or horses that are in super, super like performance mode, they're eating a lot of alfalfa.
Got it. Okay.
Our horses don't do that, so they don't need it.
Nope.
They gain weight very easily. So Tex is not the only one on alfalfa. There's a couple, like I said, that they just need a little bit of that protein that maybe they're not getting from their grain. Because like I said, we keep as much grain. We try not to feed this as much as our hay. So we give them that protein in the alfalfa if they can have it, accommodate it in their diet. And then some of them just don't get it at all because they don't need it. They would love it, but they can't have it.
Got it.
Yes, very much so.
Awesome. So circling back to that. All right, so we've talked a little bit about the grain.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there's a lot more that we could go into, right? But I don't think there's enough hours in the day right now. We've talked a little bit about the hay. Again, plenty of options are there too. And then of course, the water, making sure that they have that readily accessible at any time during the 24-hour period, right? So inside their stall, inside their paddock, or whatever, down the lessons area, stuff like that. So whenever it comes to the equine operations piece of it, like, what else about your role besides the feeding, right, which is a very detailed plan? What else about your role is it that you can kind of educate us on? Yeah.
So the nutrition is just one part of it, I should say.
Huge, like small part, but huge impact.
Yes, very much. There's a lot I think that people don't think of that I constantly have to be thinking of just because that's my role. So who's
I know you're on the call around the clock.
Oh my gosh. Yes, so 365 days a year, I'm on call 24/7. So my phone is constantly
I know I've called you.
Yep. I don't sleep through the night anymore. I'm constantly checking, making sure the first thing I do when I wake up is I check work, I check Slack.
Right.
Is everything good? Right. The barn's not on fire. Great.
Well, right. Well, I mean, especially too with like some of the medical conditions that our horses are in, sometimes they need that extra attention, that extra care, right? The extra check-in, right? Which I think is a great idea as far as a night check is concerned, having that extra touch point to make sure the horses are safe and like they're not colicky, especially during this season where they don't really want to drink as much water, right? Whatever else like that.
Yeah.
All right. So sorry, I kind of cut you off a little bit. So
you're good. There's, like I was saying, there's a lot of things people don't think about that operate. I like to think we have a pretty smooth operation up here.
We do.
So a lot of that is, okay, who's ordering the inventory? So who's stocking the grain? Who's stocking the hay? Who's stocking the shavings? That falls on me. I have to make sure we have it. We can never run out of it.
Right.
Those are things that no one should know when we do. No one should know the process behind. I should have that smoothly operating. And I hope that's the case.
It has been the case. Since I've been in the seat, it's been the case.
So those are things like, those are just kind of little things that you just need to keep going. And that's when you get the call on your day off. Hey, we're about to run out of this grain. Right. Can we go pick some up, or can you make a phone call? And those are the little things that day to day happen. Right. And same thing goes for your medical supplies, your first aid, all of your meds, all of the things that you're maybe not touching as much. We don't have, knock on wood, as many horse injuries. So our alu shield, our, what is it? The duct tape, all the things that hopefully you're not using as much, you still have to have in stock in case you do. So the little things like that, like I said, just keeping the barn operating. So I talk to the barn staff a lot about what's working and what's not. You know,
Right.
if it's not working, let's not do it. Let's find something more efficient. So what's the
Love
best
that.
water bucket system? We have yet to figure that out, especially this time of year.
Right.
But
Trucking hot water up in the gator.
yeah, we've figured out like having, you know, we have spigots at each of the fences, so giving them their own hose, so you don't have to trudge a hose all the way up to the paddocks every single time you have to go do water. They each have one up there. This time of year, obviously it freezes, so this time of year it's changed, but
Yeah.
just making our operation smooth so that for clients, volunteers, staff, and the horses, it's just smooth.
Gotcha. That's a lot of thought.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you get a lot of feedback across your team, right? Across the equine
Yeah.
operations team,
Mhm.
right? Between like Leslie and Katie and Sophie and Elena, of course,
Yeah.
all the brilliance behind it.
Yeah.
It's good. And then sometimes you get feedback from some of the instructors too,
Mhm.
right? Because they have a lot of experience too.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's awesome. I just have so much more to ask, and I'm sure we have so many other questions too, whenever it comes to it. But that'll be maybe for our next segment, whenever it comes to your roles and responsibility, because like it's Strongwater operations, right? So we've got the lower barn, we've got the upper barn, we got the overall, making sure everything meshes well, right? So before we close out, right, what are some other little tidbits and things like that that kind of keep you going?
One of my favorite things is just the relationships that I build with the horses.
Yeah.
It's really nice. Like I do all the training, especially when they're in trials and their conditioning. A lot of it falls on me, although it is spread across the staff. But one of the things I love is just the kind of overall relationship I build with them. So I can tell you,
I've witnessed that.
Yeah.
With you.
Yeah, I know. I know the amount of water each of them drinks. I know how they eat their grain,
That might be
how
another
they
segment.
prefer it. Yep. And just getting to know those little details about each
Right.
of them, like just the little things that you do and you notice every single day. When this horse comes in, he automatically pees. It's just what they do. And then when they don't do that, you know, that's
Something's
an off
wrong.
day. Something's off.
Yeah.
And so I love that, and that's why, you know, the 60-day trial is why I get to get a pretty good understanding of who they are, and then as time goes on, I can now tell you quite a lot about these horses, so that when instructors come to me, hey, I'm having this issue, let me help you figure it out, because I know this horse pretty well, and I just love that I can help people figure them out and be that guide, but also have the whole thing. It's not just the riding and just the training. It's he drinks water when he comes in every single day at this time, and his buckets in the morning are this full, and this is how he prefers his grain, and he dunks his hay in the water bucket, and like all those little things. I just love knowing those. So,
yeah. Oh, wait, sorry. One more question.
Yeah.
Tea.
Yeah.
So explain a little bit about tea, and then I promise we'll be done. All right.
Tea water.
Yeah, the tea water. So like I've seen some of the horses like be offered warm tea. So I guess after you soak some of the hay, the water that's left over, that's considered tea, right?
Yeah.
All right. So what do the horses feel about that?
So some of them love it and some of them don't.
Okay.
I've actually kind of transitioned my tea to not so much just the hay water that soaks, because a lot of that is leftover sugar.
Right.
And that is not something we want to always offer them.
Especially for our diabetic horses.
Yes.
More on that another time.
Yes. So those horses don't ever get that tea water, and really it's just special treats that the other horses will.
Okay.
So instead, if we offer them a nice hot, warm tea water, it's going to be, if we soak alfalfa cubes, again, it's only the ones that can get the alfalfa water that will get the leftover. We have a Enzo who's very selective about his hay cubes. We have to strain them.
I
for
like
him.
how you said selective. That's good.
Yeah, we have to strain them for him because he won't eat them fully soaked. So, but you can't feed them dry.
Nope.
So we'll strain them, and that leftover water we'll offer to the horses that can have that in their diet. As you know, additive water given to them this time of year is very important. So there's no colics, there's no impactions. It also is just a little sweet treat for them. It's very yummy and it's warm. And then there's other teas you can give them. You can give them like herbal teas that you actually make, or we'll sometimes do some grain that we'll put in some hot water, and that alone is just enough. That. There's also Replenimash. There's a bunch of things you can do.
Geez.
Yeah, there's a bunch of things you can do. So we're always trying to offer them as much as we can.
Especially the warm water during the winter for hydration
they
purposes.
Love it. Yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
All right. So now, anything else that you want to add to this piece? All right. Well, thank you so much, Melissa. I appreciate your time, and thank you very much for watching, and we will see you next time.